Hi, everybody. Welcome to season 2 of Great Minds, People and Culture podcast. I'm your host, Ren Akinci, Chief People Officer of Advertising Week and Emerald. For Earth Day, we're speaking with someone who truly embodies grassroots leadership and environmental action. Natalie Flores is the heart behind NourishLA, a community-powered nonprofit committed to food sovereignty, sustainability, and mutual aid. What started as a response to food waste and hunger during the pandemic has grown into a movement, one that connects people to fresh produce, environmental education, and the power of local resilience through gardening. Natalie leads from the ground up, showing us what it means to serve your community with both vision and action. Whether responding to wildfires or fighting food insecurity, her work is a reminder that leadership can be hands-on, humble, and deeply rooted in care for people and the planet. Hey, Natalie, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. Now, you launched NourishLA during the COVID-19 pandemic to address food insecurity. Before we get into some of the questions that I have for you, can you walk us through what prompted you to want to take action and protect your community in a time where people were very self-serving? We were all trying to figure out, what do we do for ourselves? What do we do for our immediate family? But you did something even further than that. You were thinking, what do I do for my community? How can I help address this during the pandemic? What was your thought process to reach that conclusion?
Before I started NourishLA, my job had actually just sent me home to write a gardening manual. I was managing a large community garden in the heart of Venice Beach. So my days were very much different than staying inside a 2-bedroom apartment with a baby. It was being in a garden, conducting farm-to-table meals, teaching previously unhoused youth how to create something out of nothing. And for us, that nothing was actually the garden. So it created a safe haven for people. It brought community. And I was hired to be a community engagement coordinator. So my job had sent us home to do something totally different that I was not hired for. It was to write a gardening manual. And I said, that's just not the best use of my time or my skills or my gifts. And I wouldn't be doing humanity any favors pursuing this work at all. And I wouldn't be doing myself a favor. I believe that, we're all here to be of service for one another. We all have gifts to share. And unfortunately, writing a garden manual wasn't my gift. And I knew that. And I talked to my husband about it. And I said, I don't know what we're going to do, but I can't do this. Like, I will lose my mind. And we're believers of God. We talk about our spirituality all the time. And, I said, well, if we're all going to die, which we know that that's going to happen, what is the best way to go out? Is it to be locked up and afraid? Is that really something I really encourage? Is that really what I believe? And it's not. That's not how I want to live my life. It's not the guidelines that I live by. I think service unto others is really what gives us purpose and what gives us life. Fortunately, I found a way to be able to do that and to be able to keep serving my community and do it safely. And I saw that there was a need for help with food. And I thought, I can get behind this. This makes perfect sense. And I align with this value and these things. So that's how it started. It was simple, just seeing everybody at home on social media, people using Facebook pages to try to get access to resources that they didn't have anymore, right? A lot of people lost their jobs and were let go of. All the kids stopped going to school. Say you're taking care of a mom or a father, they're in their old age. And now everybody's home. You got to make meals all day long. And if you just lost your job, how are you going to do that? And I just thought, this is crazy. But also, there's a ton of food waste in our city. There's waste everywhere. How do we get that waste before it's wasted and clean it up and get it to people that could use those resources so it's not going to waste? It's not ending up in landfill. I read some crazy stat in college, and it was like 30% of all the food grown doesn't even make it to household kitchens. It just goes to landfill. And I thought, damn, that's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. What's wrong with this system? Why are we encouraging this? This is a shame and a sin. So, we quickly just were able to get to work. We lived next to a major grocery store and saw that, hey, we can figure this out. There is a way we can do this. So that's how it started. And here we are 5 years later. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I went to school for waste management. I did a certification program at a local community college. So I got to audit various grocery stores and I got to see what happens to all our landfill and what happens to the compost. And it's actually a remarkable process. But I feel like if you're not exposed to that, you won't even grasp or have gratitude for the way that your food and your resources get, moved around. It's something to easily take for granted. But I feel like with the pandemic, there was the silver lining was now people are home, they have time, people want to help each other. People have time to garden. People have time to be together. A lot of people were taking up bread making, which was super cool. I saw a lot of that happening in the community. But I saw people that could, had the privilege and the luxury of being able to get food delivered to their homes. Like, that's great. But what about the majority of Angelinos that cannot do that? They work paycheck to paycheck. What are they supposed to do? This is a real serious issue. And if we're talking about serious issues and viruses and diseases, hunger should be one of those viruses. World hunger and hunger in general should be up there as well. We really need to address that because hunger goes hand in hand with eradicating deadly diseases. Eating well is known to help your mental capacity and your body's ability to fight off deadly diseases. So we should encourage healthy eating, right? I think it's one of the easier ways to invite a healthy conversation as well.
I love that. So you started basically by first realizing that the change in where you were going to work and how you were going to use your talent was not going to be a value alignment for you. And then you embraced the fact that putting yourself out there, like you said, if we're going to die, we're going to die. So you kind of embraced the situation you were in. You weren't afraid of it. You were just like, let me try to do what I can do during this time to help serve my community, continue to use my talents, and it seems like the statistic you read in college also stuck with you throughout your life about food waste. And that's something that I'm always reading up about. I think I read at one point that if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases after the US and China. And roughly about 25% of the world's fresh water is used to grow food that is never eaten. We're talking about not just food waste, but all the resources we're wasting to produce the food that never gets into our food supply or to the tables, like you mentioned. I mean, the US alone wastes about like 40% of its food supply, which is approximately 130 billion pounds of food per year, which is an enormous amount when you see people who are impacted by not being able to get not just nutritious food, but any food, not being able to afford groceries, that have food insecurity, and who are without a home. So, you did your certification, you started collaborating with a grocery right next to you. What were some of the leadership challenges you faced in starting a nonprofit during such a tumultuous time?
One of the things when you go to a grocery store to approach them about getting that food before they throw it away, you actually have to be affiliated with some nonprofit. Thankfully, my past 10 years of work experience is all in nonprofit work. I met lots of other nonprofits, some that did just feed the needy, right? And I found out about loopholes and how they work and how you can actually use different people's nonprofit ID numbers so that you can access resources until yours comes. It's not immediate. So I just reached out to my local network and my local community and I asked for things I needed. When you're building something, you don't always really realize what you don't have until you get there, right? And you're like, oh, I need a lawyer or I need this or, I need advice. You won't know until you get started. Some other people's approaches is like, oh, I want to make a fine blueprint and get really organized. And that's just not my approach. Mine is more like, let's do it. We'll figure it out as we go. We're constantly going to be learning and growing. And, some people might say, well, that's really dangerous. You don't have a plan, but this wasn't an emergency. It's like, yeah, but every day that I don't do something is a time that someone doesn't get food. So in this situation, you have to like outweigh your pros and cons and say, okay, am I willing to take on this risk? Can I do this? And you don't have to do everything by yourself. So I leaned on my community. I opened it up. If everybody's home on social media, I'm going to open it up to social media as well. I'm going to ask for the things that I need. who has a tax ID number that I could use so I can access this food? Bam, bam, bam. Who has a big vehicle? Who has a truck? Are there coolers? I use my local Buy Nothing groups as well to access resources. But that was one of the things that I first did when I was getting started was just ask my local community and use social media and through my own network of the nonprofit world, ask for things that I need. And the Buy Nothing group, amazing. If you guys don't know about the Buy Nothing group, it's an international group. It's hyper localized to where you live. It's an app as well if you don't have Facebook, but it's to encourage not buying stuff you don't need and to sharing resources with other people to not purchase more stuff. So it's really fabulous. And I use that a lot in the BNA and we still use it all the time. It's fabulous. Why buy more stuff?
I totally agree with you. That's wonderful. So you founded the organization during COVID-19, and since then there's been nothing but a shortage of devastating things hitting California, one being the wildfires that have recently happened. How has NourishLA adapted its operations during such crisis, and what leadership strategies have you used to continue to serve the community beyond just the regular food banks, but food banks during crisis situations?
Because we were started during a crisis, we know exactly what to do during a crisis. You lean on your neighbors. That's the best thing to do. You lean on your neighbors. We saw all these little grassroots organizations popping up, people opening up their garages for fire victims to come shop. We opened up our food recovery line for people to drop off donations and then redirected those donations to specific areas in the city. And it was fabulous. And it's all just about working together and working with the grassroots organizations. Just work small. Before you can change the whole world, you got to just focus on one immediate little world. And that's what we did. It was, we just had to pivot slightly and say, okay, this is what we're going to do for the next few months. We have all these first responders needing food or, emergency or all these different things, waters. We're going to get a drive going for these specific people because that's who we're immediately around, right? You work hyper locally and then you can finish what you start. That's what we did. We just worked locally and worked within small communities and communicated who needed what, but just little.
As far as the geographical location of where you're distributing food, and this is such a tactical question, but one I always wonder about, how do you pick which location to set up in so that unhoused people know that there's food available to them? Like, how does that information reach the people who need the resources that you're offering?
Yeah, we work with a lot of different nonprofits because my world was in nonprofits. We work with a lot of case managers and different organizations that provide case management services for unhoused or low income families or seniors. And you can actually call 411, find out about our food site. So that's like an easy way, but we work with the city. Anyone that's willing to put us on the map or let the community access our resources, it's not a problem. I think just figuring out who we can partner with so we can create a hub site for that area is the first half of the battle is just who's willing to let us drop a shipping container and have 75 volunteers post up to recover all this food and figure out where it goes. But yeah, we work with lots of case management and nonprofits so that they can let their clients know.
What is one of the biggest misconceptions about unhoused people that you typically hear that you kind of want to set the record straight on? Because there's obviously a lot of unhoused people in LA, and people are who don't live in the community and see its impact, or see the people in a human to human level, make their own assumptions about how these people got to this place. What are some myths or some things that you want to set the record straight on, considering how close you are to this community?
It really could be anybody. And there's students that are unhoused. There's professionals that look like they have a house that are living in their cars to try to save money. It could be anybody. So to not assume, that's very important. It's a very expensive city. So it's hard sometimes, if you're waiting on a paycheck or if you get sick, God forbid, and you don't have health insurance, it could be anybody. So just be humble, be kind. It could be anybody. I've been unhoused at one point in my life. So it's like, and I know many other people too. It affects a lot of different people. There's families living in their cars. We were told of a mom with her two kids living in a van who she's a post lady. So she's living out of her van and she's a working professional, right? And she's living out of her van. So we just don't know people's situation and just be kind and be respectful and don't assume, don't make any assumptions at all.
The disparity between food waste and hunger is striking. What are some of the innovative solutions you and your team have implemented to address the issue? And how do you all execute these strategies effectively? Like, is there some consistency in how you approach it, or does it depend on the resources available? What does that process look like?
Basically, anywhere and everywhere that serves food or makes food has waste. It's inevitable. A restaurant or a grocery store can't predict that everything is going to be purchased, right? So that's inevitable. That's part of it. And I think it's also the responsibility of the owners, and it has to be built in to address the waste that is going to come of these places. The city's putting more pressure on any business that creates waste to either compost or donate it. So they're getting more pressure and reaching out to us. We're creating tech on our end. So we're creating strategies to partner with local restaurants and small businesses so that they reach out to us and let us know when they have extra bread or extra sandwiches or whatever it is, right? But we also work with a wide network of other food recovery organizations, and everybody just shares. If you get a pallet of nectarines and you have too many, call this organization. So we're always working together to share whatever it is, because sometimes it's an insane amount of something, and you can only take so much because it comes in pallets sometimes. If you've never seen like what a pallet of nectarines look like, it's really overwhelming sometimes. So it's good to always be a good sharer, and it all goes around. All we care about is that it gets eaten. We don't want to hoard any resources. We really just want it to go out fresh and get people fed. So I'm all about sharing, networking, working with other organizations to make sure that the harvest is shared. That's our slogan: sharing the harvest, sowing the future.
I assume that you have a team of volunteers who help you execute on all of that. How do you get volunteers? How do you motivate them to keep going, even when they're faced with things that are probably hard to digest sometimes, seeing people in vulnerable situations, understanding that this could happen to anybody? How do people go on while still trying to contribute to the greater good?
Oh, it's amazing. So we have 75 volunteers every single weekend. We have 6 paid staff members, and it's a big production. It really is, because we serve over 1,000 people every single weekend. One of the models is just make it fun. Like when you do something like this, what you're really instilling in our community and in every person that participates is like, look, when we share the weight of this thing, it becomes all of our things to handle. It's not just mine or one person, it's all of ours. It's shared. And it actually makes it fun because we get to be problem solvers, and we get to see firsthand the waste, and then we clean it all up and redirect it and then give it out to the people that need it. And then we see the people affected by it. And sometimes it's us. Our volunteers also get to take home food. So if you're a volunteer that's also facing food insecurity, we just destigmatize the need for food. Everybody deserves healthy food. There's more than enough of it. I don't care how much money you make or how little money you have in your pocket. The point is that you're human, and this food is going to go to waste, and there's plenty of it. So why not share the harvest? So we destigmatize it. It's not something you need to feel ashamed about or feel bad about. It's that you're human and that you need to eat, and you deserve to eat well, and you matter. So, just making it fun. We make it a party. We have music, we have lunch, we provide food and beverages and coffee and snacks. And we have parties throughout the year just to say thank you, and to also, we're a community. You build a community. That's all it is. You're building a community, and you're networking, and you're making friends, and you're seeing some of your neighbors come in line, and that's so what? It's just take the stigma out of it. There's going to be times in your life where you're going to need help, and there's going to be other times where you can offer your helping hand, and that's just life.
That's beautiful. So 6 paid staff members and 75 volunteers feeding 1,000 people. That's very impressive. Is your goal in the future to be able to scale Nourish LA to, I don't want to compare it to World Central Kitchen, but I think your passion for feeding people and mobilizing during times of crisis is very similar to that. Like, what is the goal for you? Do you want to scale? Do you want to be able to serve more communities, or is LA going to be your focus?
Yeah, we do want to scale, and we also have a gardening aspect part of that we do. So we also build gardens once a month through our Good Karma Gardens initiative. So also just getting some of the people that are standing in line, get them in the garden, get their kids in the garden. Also just share a story, just talk, just break bread together, because we have people standing in line for a long time. It would be really nice to be able to dig with them and plant food for the future. That's really what we want to do. We want to sow seeds with some of these humans and also just get to know their stories because I believe everybody has a gift. So if we can, yes, scale, create more jobs, education, and gardens around our mission, that would be fabulous.
That's wonderful because then that gives back to the sustainability on the other end of the spectrum, not just repurposing food that's already been creating, but also
Growing better food.
absolutely. What does your household like teaching look like as it comes to food waste? Like what do you teach your child about food waste? Because like you, food waste bothers me, right? Like I haven't had a chance to mobilize the way that you have and do something about it. But when I see and you said it in your introduction, you said it's a sin to waste food, and I wholeheartedly believe that. But I see so much of it. I see so much of it in the workplace, when people over order food and it goes wasted, even in restaurants when people over order and it's wasted. What do you teach in your household about food waste?
That's a great question because sometimes I come home with 40 loaves of bread because we'll get a call really late at night and I'll just go get it. But thankfully, I have 400 neighbors, so we posted on our Facebook page. But my daughter is notorious about she takes our wagon and goes neighbor to neighbor passing out bread. We share all the time. We have friends come over all the time, family members come over all the time. We break bread amongst community members all the time. So anybody's hungry, make them a piece of bread. It's a joy to be of service. So that's something we're always trying to instill in our family. We have a compost in the corner of our home. So all our food scraps go there. It's our nightly routine to take it out. We have a green bin here in Culver City. They have a zero waste implementation. All that waste gets processed and then given back to the community. And people show up by the truckloads getting that free compost for their garden. So it really does work. It takes us all working together and it's like it's easy. You take out the trash, right? You take out your recycling, take out your compost. It's good. It's because you're composting, you don't have to take out your trash as much. It's awesome. And you're making healthy soil. So why not? But we also garden with our kids. We're part of a community garden. So we're actually going there this evening to water our plot. We have a garden in our backyard. We grow a bunch of herbs. We have a little tower. I can give you guys a tour if you want of the backyard. But we do have a garden in the backyard. We have herbs. We harvest green onions. Last night, my husband was making loaded potatoes. He needed some chives. They're there, rosemary, all those things. We have passion fruit growing out of our compost and tomatoes growing out of our compost right now. We have a worm bin in our backyard. My son feeds the worms every day, but it's just a normal thing that you do. It's not a big deal. It's just part of what you do. And you don't make it a big deal. It's just what you do, right?
I think because you're so connected to the way that food is grown and composting, etc., there's of course appreciation for the food that gets served to you. There's thoughtfulness around it, appreciation for it, how it got there, etc. In your community, of course, it's California and LA, composting is the norm or hopefully done by a lot of people. What is your recommendation for people who may not have access to composting or have even heard of it up until this point? We still, in some cases, still stuck with the recycling bin versus not, and people are still trying to figure out what can I recycle, what can I not recycle. Tell us a little bit about composting.
I'll backtrack a little bit. One of the easiest ways to have better connection with what you eat is by going to volunteer on a farm. Go volunteer on a farm, go be part of a community garden, or even just try growing something that you eat. Even if it's an herb, on your windowsill, if you live in an apartment, grow one thing and try to keep it alive and nourish it and feed it and be with it because you have farmers doing that every day. And just that simple connection, you'll realize that farming is no joke. It's a real skill. It's a real thing. And we need to have more reverence for it because without farmers, we would literally starve. But by becoming a farmer, even if you farm one thing, you learn to have more gratitude and appreciation for the way that that food got to you. So that's actually how my whole journey started is through volunteering with local community gardens. And it changed my whole trajectory. I went on to Woof and I farmed on multiple countries. because I wanted to learn more about farming. And it totally changed my perspective and my work for the better. And it's just something that we need to get back to basics. We need to, without it, without having reverence for the soil and the land and our food systems, we get lost. Anybody that has lost their culture has lost all connection to their food. And it's a very scary thing and it's a very sad thing. So we mustn't do that. All of our ancestors were farmers prior. And I think it's also great because it's commonality. There's so much division that we could talk about, but food and celebrating and eating is something we do every single day. It is sacred, it's necessary, it's enjoyable. We do it as a celebration. And I think it's our commonality. And I think it's one of the easiest ways to bond is through a shared meal. So getting back to the basics is just grow something, try growing something, and then you can have a little more appreciation for the composting and the fertilizing and you know what I mean? Like, and then we go back to the soil. Like, how beautiful is this?
What is the easiest thing to grow in an apartment? Asking for a friend.
Herbs. Herbs are the easiest thing to grow. Thyme, rosemary, grow some herbs. You can grow green onions out of the bottoms. Just stick them in a cup of water, put them on your windowsill. You grow green onions and they just keep growing and you could just keep using them. They're fabulous.
You touched a little bit on this. Beyond immediate food distribution, how do you envision Nourish LA to contribute to long term community resilience and sustainability?
Growing gardens, because gardens create questions and they create not only gardens, but the person becomes a garden and realizes all the things that they have been lacking are right there. And it helps to create resilience, mental well-being, health and wellness, participation. It's a place for young and old. It's not just like one kind of person, or it's open for everybody, which is always good to have a space like that. But I think it's through the gardens actually that we're going to be able to hit that threshold is the gardens. The gardens help us remember.
And it's also strongly linked to longevity and overall well being, anyway, with exercise and mobility. There's studies done that it lowers risk of chronic diseases. It's an immune system boost. It's been part of the Blue Zone studies that people who garden are actually living longer.
Yeah, it does a lot of things for us, but it also creates community and it also creates jobs. Someone needs to turn that compost pile. Someone needs to teach about composting. Someone needs to educate this school about growing food. Someone needs to put in the water, the swales. Someone needs to build the raised beds or teach about regenerative farming or cover crops. So it literally can create every job we could ever dream of. Someone can innovate amazing technology to make sure that food isn't wasted, so it goes to the local food pantry.
Wonderful. You mentioned this a little bit before. Leading a nonprofit through multiple crises was personally transformative for you. How has your leadership style evolved since founding Nourish LA? And what key experiences have shaped this journey? Are you leading your team in a different way than you did when you first started? Are you looking at, adversities a different way? Are you looking at scale in a different way? What have you learned?
I've learned so much. At the beginning of this, I didn't even know that it was going to be a full-fledged org. I just knew I had to do something and I felt compelled and driven to do something. And then it grew and grew and grew and people wanted to participate. And then I realized I can't do all this myself. It's too hard. Like we need a community engagement coordinator. We need a volunteer coordinator because I can't do all those things. I'm going to burn myself out. And it was just like getting the funding to be able to do so and then delegating those tasks and then saying, you know what, I would rather be doing speaking engagements to raise 50 grand or go to the Kelly Clarkson show and share our mission and get more funding and get more whatever. But now it's like I just delegate what needs to be done, or we create a job description and we realize that that's something that needs to be fulfilled by a professional out in the world. And it would be good for all parties, right? So it's just saying relinquishing control and going with the flow and just seeing what we need as we grow. And yeah, my style has evolved so much. Now I'm way more lax and I feel great. We have a solid board and we're fundraising all the time and nothing feels like too big that it can't be done. It's just taking the practical steps to get there and to ask for help when you need it. And you're going to keep growing. You're going to keep learning and just being open and receptive. and also being able to be led and mentored. I've gained a few different mentors through this organization, and they've been super helpful. And so, I'm so grateful. And also people wanting mentorship to also say, oh, this is a really good opportunity for me to share what I've learned with somebody else that's trying to grow something similar or different, but it could be very helpful for them for whatever reason. But I think it's also saying what your capacity is. And right now, it feels really good. It feels really like I don't need to control everything. And I'm so glad I'm not.
That's wonderful. For those inspired by your work and the way that you've taken action, what is one actionable step that they can take today outside of growing their herbs that could make a difference in their own community? What if somebody wants to make a difference in something that they're so passionate about, whether that is food insecurity, literacy, animal advocacy? What can they do? Like, what is a motivating go ahead that you'd like to give them to start mobilizing, start taking action, and stop thinking about this or trying to have it be perfect before they take action?
Yeah, stop talking about it and do it. Just stop talking. Stop talking about it. Stop overly planning your every move. Stop thinking about doing. Just do it. If it's animal advocacy, go volunteer with those animals. Make yourself and your hands available. Live, breathe, and do it. We need more doers. Just stop talking about it. You create the movement by doing. So go utilize your helping hands and be effective in that way and just do it. You're always going to be learning. There's not going to be a perfect, this is perfect. It's the mastery is that you relinquish the idea to master it and it will master you. But you have to be willing to be a vessel of service first. So just go and be of service, get into that thing that you're really interested in and participate, and then meet other people that are in that world and in that field and let yourself be mentored by them and shaped and ask lots of questions and just keep utilizing your helping hands because our time on earth is limited and we could spend all day just racking our minds around what if, or complaining even that we hate the situation that we're in and blah, 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 blah. Well, the same amount of energy is used to create and to do and to impact positively. So it's way better to just go and do it. Just go do it. Go put your hands in the soil. Go meet your neighbors. Knock on your neighbors' doors. If you're lonely, bake some cookies and share them with strangers. You have to get out of your own head and just do and create because we need that more than ever.
Now, your work with NourishLA is a powerful example of what it means to step in times of crisis, identifying gaps that need to be filled, taking risks, and saying, this is not what I want to do. Here's how I want to continue with my talents. And honestly, leading with action, of course, from fighting food insecurity to mobilizing your community, responding to natural disasters. You showed your community what that leadership isn't just about titles in a corporate structure. You are truly a leader in your own community and you're showing up and making a difference. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and inspiring all of us to think about how we can contribute in our own ways. How can people find you and support Nourish LA?
Well, thank you. They can go online and just Google Nourish LA. They can find us on Instagram. I think we have a LinkedIn as well. If you want to reach out for professional reasons, you totally can. We're looking for partners and for other places that could benefit from our services and from what we've learned. So if you live somewhere that is food insecure, struggling to access healthy food, please reach out. And also, there's lots of different ways to go about feeding people. There's fruit in your trees. There's farmers that are wasting a ton of food. Don't be afraid to reach out. So just nourish.la, or you guys could reach out to me, Natalie at nourish.la. I always love talking to people directly and hearing what people have to say.
Thank you so much, Natalie. So nice to have you on this podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.